just need this to finish their best beam rotation of the year. And looking forward, says, get on your feet.
Hi, this is Jed Wunderli with the Utah Sports Report. And this week, we are having an extra special episode in addition to our regular football episode and in addition to our special basketball episode that we have. You can check those out. I'll leave links to both of those in the description box. But you may recognize my beautiful daughter, who has been on 2 times previously. And we had the opportunity to get together today, have a little lunch, and talk some Utah football. Now, she has a podcast. Jordan, you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's called Joe versus Joe. So my husband and I both have J names, J-O names, so hence Joe versus Joe. And we just talk about college football and go against each other. We each, maybe pick a different team or whatever and have a point system and everything and highlight. It's more of all of college football, not just Utah or Pac-12, but all college football that we go over.
She leaves the Utah part to me.
Yep.
But she's a huge Utah fan, so don't
I am.
think she's not.
My 3 degrees prove it.
Yes. And a master's.
Well, that's including the masters.
Yep. Okay, so Jordan, real quick, before we jump into things, where can they find you on your Instagram and the podcast itself?
Our Instagram, it's at Joe versus Joe. That's JOVSJOE. And we do polls and stuff with the audience, try to get them involved a little bit. And then you can find us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify as well. Same thing, just JO, space VS space JOE. So
cool. Check it out. It's some fun stuff. They're big football fans, just like I am, and if you're watching this, probably you as well. And so I think you'd probably enjoy it. But upcoming this week on Saturday at 5:30 on ABC, we have the game of the season for us, at least to this point. Yeah. Hopefully we're going to have an even bigger game on December 3rd and then an even bigger game like January 1st. So this Saturday, it's the North Division leading Oregon Ducks.
Number 3
in the polls versus
Utah, the leading South Division, and number 23.
Yep. So, huge game, and we're just going to discuss a little bit about this. We'd also love to see your thoughts in the comment section, so please feel free to share your thoughts. Also, like and subscribe. And I've noticed in my stats that there's a lot of people who are watching the show who aren't subscribed. So if you love Utah content, don't keep us a secret. Please like, subscribe, and share this with your other friends who are Utah fans. And even poke the bear a little bit. Share it with your BYU fans. Just kidding. But also ring that bell so that you'll get a notification when we have a new video. But let's jump into this. Jordan, give me your thoughts. We got the big game this week. Is Utah, who's favored, going to win? And if so, are they going to cover the spread?
I don't think so. Here's the thing.
Whoa! Time out! What?
As a Utah fan, I of course want them to win. I'm going to be there at the game in my Utah gear, rooting them on. But I do think Oregon is the better team, and I do think Oregon is going to win. I think people say, oh, well, Utah beat Stanford and Stanford beat Oregon. You can't even compare the two teams. They might as well have been different teams because Stanford didn't have their main quarterback when we played them, their main wide receiver, their main running back. Their defense is a lot different. I mean, you name it. It was very, very different. And so the Stanford team that we played, Oregon would have ran over as well.
And if you have a strong stomach, look up the Stanford wide receiver injury. If you just put in the search on YouTube, Stanford wide receiver injury, it'll pull up the Oregon game where Stanford played him and he got injured. It's not as bad as the Joe Theismann injury or the Alex Smith injury, but it's not far off. It's pretty gross. So yeah, when we played them, they were missing their top 3 receivers and their starting quarterback. Now, we can say, well, but the quarterback who played was the starting quarterback at the beginning of the season, so there's that.
But they obviously got switched out because he wasn't doing that good.
Right, and so yeah, it's a completely different team that they played, the Stanford, than what we played. So
I also think they played Washington State a lot better than we did. We struggled against them. The score looks a little more like we didn't struggle than we did, just because we got a defensive touchdown right at the end.
Pick 6 with Clark Phillips.
Yeah, right at the end. So that really helped the score. But honestly, we really struggled against them. In fact, they were leading for quite a while. Where Washington State was never beating Oregon in the game.
Tied at half at 14, but
they never were beating them. And honestly, it was like Oregon took that second quarter off, but if you watch every other quarter, Oregon was dominant the whole time.
So, so you think Oregon's going to win, and you think it's going to be close? We're going to keep it close and respectable, or?
I think it could be close, but I also think it might be more likely that Oregon just because we are favored, and I think Oregon's going to be mad that we're favored. I think they're going to be like, we're the number 3 team.
Yeah.
We're the number 3 team,
right.
And this team is favored. And I think they're going to come in and just wreck us, honestly. And here's the thing. As a Utah fan, that sucks. But I'd rather lose this game than the Pac-12 championship game. And I do think, just realistically, and I could be wrong, but realistically I think we can only beat them once. I think we're either going to lose both times or beat them once. And I'd way rather beat them where it counts in the Pac-12 championship game.
I read a question and answer thing from with the guy who's the publisher for the Oregon site on the Rivals network, and he was kind of saying the same thing relative to. He doesn't think that either team. He said it's a very low chance that either team could win both games.
It's hard. It's a hard thing to do, especially in 2 weeks. That's really hard.
So, my preference is that we win both games. And certainly the worst case scenario is that we lose both games. I would hate to,
I would say actually to that though, I think the worst case scenario for Utah is that we win this one and lose the Pac-12 championship.
That is worst case overall.
Overall, it's worse because for those, I'm obviously assuming that we are going to the Pac-12 championship, which technically isn't guaranteed. We have to win one more game, or Arizona State has to lose one more game. It's an or situation, so it's pretty likely, I think, that we're going to go.
But before you finish with that thought, let's say we do lose to Oregon on Saturday and beat Colorado the following Friday, and then lose in the championship game, we're going to be 8-5. And so if we do go to the Pac-12, we've kind of backed in, and we're 8-5. A 5-loss team in a New Year's Six Bowl.
Well, hold on. That's why we need to go get here first. So if we lose to Oregon now and lose in the Pac-12, that means Oregon beat us both times. Assuming they beat Oregon State the last game of the season, they will most likely go to the CFP because they're already third right now. A lot would have to happen. They're going, right, at that point. So they're going to the CFP, which means the loser of the Pac-12 championship would most likely go to the Rose Bowl. Now, his point was that do you take an 8-5 Utah team, like Pac-12 championship loser, or do you take maybe I guess, what would it be, 9-3 Arizona State team, assuming they win out?
Yep.
So that's the thing. But I think if Arizona State loses one more time, you take the 8-5 Pac-12 championship loser.
No doubt. So obviously, we want to take care of business ourselves, win the next 3 games, just because that would give us the best record, and we'd be going in on a winning note to the Rose Bowl. But just to also give us a little separation and a little breathing room and to make it look a little more dominant for us. We, at least speaking for myself, I really want Oregon State to take care of business against Arizona State this weekend.
Yeah. Oregon State has a couple big games out of them. They play Arizona State and then they play Oregon. So,
and I think that one's at Oregon State. I don't know. I can't remember. But okay, so we've hashed out the different scenarios, and it's.
But hold on, if we beat them today, or not today, but this week, and we lose to them in the Pac-12 championship, that's the worst case scenario for us because we will not be going to the Rose Bowl. Because Oregon is not going to the CFP with 2 losses.
Correct.
And they'll go to the Rose Bowl since they won, and so that leaves us out. That's why I'm saying it's actually the worst case scenario, just us winning right now and then losing in the grand scheme of things, right? We'd have one more win, but I'd rather go to the Rose Bowl.
And while that's, I get that point, and that's certainly better for us, in terms of the status of the bowl, but I also do not want to lose to Oregon twice in the same season.
Nope, so we gotta
especially
win.
Since we got our butts kicked in 2019 in the conference championship game to them. We need to get back on track and beat them so that, we can't say, oh, well, there was 2015, and I think we beat them one other time in a close game.
We beat them in 2018 at home.
Yeah.
With Matt Gay. He scored 18 points. Our kicker scored the most points for us that game. And it was Matt Gay. That was Jason Shelley's first game of the season because Tyler Huntley got injured. And so Shelley played that entire game. And so he got us in field goal range, but Matt Gay scored 18 points, got 6 field goals that game. That was amazing. Anyway.
Told you she was a Utah fan.
Yeah.
So, at any rate, we know that Oregon has an extremely balanced offense. They actually have more yards by about 100 and change on the ground than they do through the air. And we know that our defense, our run defense, which is normally among the top in the league, is not nearly as good as it normally is. So add that to the fact that we often don't do super well against dual threat quarterbacks. And Oregon has a fantastic quarterback, Anthony Brown, he got over 100 yards in his last game against Washington State, but he's also a very capable passer. And you've got a great running back in Travis Dye, and there's a freshman running back behind him who's strong and very fast and very capable. So you've got 3 extremely dangerous runners. You've got a bevy of receivers, and because they spread it out so much among them, none of them have a ton of yards. Their leading receiver has about 349 yards, but it's a multi-dimensional offense, and that makes me very nervous.
And they've been looking better and better, to be honest. They did struggle, and they should have still beaten Stanford, but they've been looking more solid and more solid as the season goes on. And I can say that to Utah, but only to the extent. The way we played against Arizona does not make me say that about Utah.
Yeah, that's the thing. You can call it recency bias, or you can also call it what it is and say, well, give Arizona credit because they were coming off a win, and they have played a lot of teams close. I've mentioned before that Oregon was 24-19 against Arizona after 3 quarters.
They're not just a pushover team. They may look like it. Their record makes it look like they are, but they really are not just a pushover team.
Right. And so, but it does feel like with the way we played, 8 penalties for 85 yards.
Oh my gosh, penalties.
The punt block. And now, granted, there's probably 2 of those penalties that shouldn't have been called, and there's probably 2 that should have been called on Arizona, including a targeting penalty.
And I think there was a couple of pass interference calls that needed to be called. But that was also just not in our favor right there. But we still should have beaten them by more.
And then here's the other thing. There's a couple. Their defense is solid across the board. Oregon's is, although they give up about 21 yards a game more than we do. They give up about 1 point less per game than we do. So there's
It's
that.
crazy. The stats, like the actual stats on each team is like almost dead even.
And offense is about dead even. They're like 3 yards ahead of us and 3 spots ahead of us, too, in terms of the overall rankings of college football for their offense. But they have Kayvon Thibodeau, who is the, I don't know if he's consensus #1 draft pick, but there's a lot of people, a lot of, like Mel Kiper, who think that he's going to go #1 in the draft. And he kind of tore us up as a freshman in 2019. And then you also have Nephi Sewell's brother, Noah, who is also a linebacker, but he's a couple inches taller than Nephi, and he's like 260. And he moves like he's 230 or so. Extremely athletic, not to mention all the other very solid players on their defense, including a cornerback who's got 5 interceptions. So they turn other people over a lot more than we do. We need to be better at creating turnovers.
We haven't been that good this season on that.
Right. So with that kind of a breakdown, any thoughts?
Just makes me more solidified in my original pick with Oregon. Now, here's the thing. I do think Utah could win. Like, I really don't think it's out of reach. It's at home. I know the fans probably want it so bad because
12th man.
We are the ones that really suffered. This is a pretty new Utah team. So, honestly, I think the fans were the ones that suffered the most with that 2019 loss. And we still are holding on to that. So I think the fans are going to be crazy. I think we're going to be pumped. We are also playing for, Ty and Aaron.
Something. Yep.
And so I feel like that gives us something even more to play for. So it's really not out of reach. And we are pretty good at making adjustments. I imagine that Morgan Scalley just hounded the defense for all the penalties that we had and everything. So I think the penalties should be better
Let's hope.
this game for Utah. We're pretty good at making adjustments.
And let's hope that I think now that our offense is getting more seasoned and experienced and whatnot, we're going to be probably at a disadvantage with our offensive line because Paul Miley, from what I'm told, is going to be out. So Ford's going to move back to center. And I think Miley has been making some great offensive line calls. So that's going to be, our offensive line probably isn't going to be quite as good as it has been over the last few games. But I mean, you got to love Cam. I think Cam can keep us in about any game.
I love Cam.
And, I think the fact that we do some 3 tight end sets, I think that's going to help offset people like Kayvon Thibodeau and whatnot, because it does usually give us an extra blocker or 2 and some great receivers as well, in addition to our actual wide receivers. So I think that hopefully Ludwig has some surprises on offense for Oregon, and hopefully Tavion Thomas is back because he's phenomenal. And then hopefully Scalley has some surprises dialed up and puts a lot of pressure. It'll be interesting to see if he has a spy, like maybe Devin Lloyd, for instance, on their quarterback, Anthony Brown, because I think we need somebody who's always responsible for him.
That's another thing. We will have Devin Lloyd the whole game, at least right now, But we did not have him for half the game against Arizona because of the targeting call the week before. So we do have him just starting off. So that's nice too, since he is our #1 defensive player.
Yeah. So a lot to think about. Very interesting possibilities, and
it's going to be a good game. I hope it's a good game, at least. I hope it's a good game for Utah.
We're all going to be there in our Utah gear, rooting the heck out of our minds for Utah.
And we have the cool uniforms this week with the
the Salt Lake,
the USS
Salt Lake City,
and the hand-painted helmets, which is always cool.
Yep. So let's hope that there's a lot of inspiration that we're taking from that, and from, of course, Ty and Aaron, and just a strong desire to win and put 2019 behind us. Let's hope we go out
I know, we
and
need
do
to
something
win.
special.
We cannot be 0-3 for the Pac-12 championship.
Right, right. Definitely can't do that, because then it's like 3 strikes and you're out. So at any rate, appreciate you watching. Again, please like, comment, subscribe. Mostly subscribe and hopefully like. But appreciate Jordan spending a little time. She's super busy because she's doing a master's and working and everything like that. And still finding time to enjoy a little football, have a little balance in her life. So
Yeah.
appreciate you, Jordan. And all I've got to say is go Utes.